At the weekend, the National Association of Democratic Lawyers held the AGM in Gauteng. Part of their discussion was about throwing in support for the BDS resolution on Palestine. One of those resolutions agreed upon by the National Association of Democratic Lawyers would be for the South African government to enforce its own legislation, the Regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act, essentially demanding that the National Prosecuting Authority investigate and prosecute individuals found to be South Africans and are enlisted in the Israeli Defense Force. Joining me now, Martin Jansen. He's the executive member of the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. Just if you can give us a broad outline of what the Regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act says about people who engage either in foreign conflicts as active combatants, as militaries, but also people who provide logistical support in the form of contractors, security contractors. And that is what we've seen a lot of South African involvement in wars and conflicts around the world. They enlist as security advisors. Martin, what does the restriction on foreign military assistance say?
Good morning, Lester, and good morning to the listeners. Well, the FMAA is very clear that no South African is allowed or permitted to get involved in any foreign conflict. That's the first one. The second one is that if a South African wishes to get involved, either through as a military contractor or as an individual, they need to request permission from the minister, the relevant minister, and only upon such permission being received by the minister are they allowed to. And specifically on this question, on this issue, we filed a complaint with the NPA against a South African citizen, in fact a Capetonian, young Jewish Capetonian, who served in the IDF in 2014. If you remember 2014, there was this bombing of Gaza, over 1,000 people killed. And in fact, this South African not only served in the IDF, but was literally the poster boy of the IDF. In other words, they had him on posters where they promoted the IDF and used it for recruiting other foreign nationals, not only from South Africa, but different parts of the world like Britain, Canada, etc. And what's been disappointing is that since then, there's been very, very little progress, and of course, no decision yet on the part of the NPA to prosecute or not this individual.
There's been no progress or no action by the NPA at all, Martin. In 2009, the Palestinian Solidarity Alliance approached the NPA with 75 names of South Africans enlisted in the IDF. You've mentioned the case in 2014, South Africans identified. There's been no prosecutions. So what makes you believe that the NPA would want to investigate and prosecute now?
Well, so from our side, we're putting pressure on the NPA. And of course, when, Gaza, Palestine, the Middle East becomes a major issue in the news, etc., we get over the years now, we get a sense that they do move and they communicate with us, etc., but it never ever gets to the point of a decision on whether to prosecute or not. And in fact, we filed a case in 2020, again, of 13 local Zionists, young people, who joined the IDF and in fact boasted in social media about what they've been doing and so on. And we also know of individuals, South Africans, who've been killed in this war on the people of Palestine. And yet no action on the part of government. And one can only speculate why that is the case. If you just remember, not too long ago, there was the case of the Tulsi twins, who were alleged to have been connected and involved with ISIS, and they were arrested even before doing anything, let alone going overseas and joining ISIS. It was on the basis of investigations done on them, surveillance, etc. And these two young men were arrested. They were jailed for 5 years before their case came to a head, and there was some settlement, some agreement between the prosecuting authority and their attorneys, and I think they were sentenced to 10 years in jail. So
Martin?
the question we asked, why is it that there's this double standard where these two were arrested and in jail, and all these others who serve in the IDF, nothing is done?
Martin, if you're a young person with dual South African Israeli citizenship and you happen to live in Israel, where military conscription is enforced by law and any objection to be conscripted into the IDF is punishable by imprisonment, do you believe that every South African in the IDF is currently there on their own convictions?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And in fact, what we have is a whole recruitment network here in South Africa by Zionist organizations who facilitate this. And in fact, we have an even deeper arrangement where schools, such as the Herzliya schools, are cultivating Zionism, which, as we know, is a racist, it's a fascist ideology. They're cultivating, they're educating young people to support Zionism and, of course, to support Israel. And this kind of, intellectually facilitates the recruitment of young people into the IDF. So there's a whole network in South Africa of doing this. And we're saying, in fact, our case, our complaint, calls for all of these organizations to be investigated and the law to take its course against them.